Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddee P. I'm your host, Maddee P. And this week, it's January, you guys. And we have so many sober curious girls entering the chat. Dry January is on 30 this year. So many people are doing Dry January. And I thought it'd be great to talk about the beginning stages of sobriety, kind of what it looks like, how I got through it, and kind of some tips or tidbits I have. This is coming from an alcoholic perspective. So for any of the normies, which is, when I say normie, I'm just referring to people that are not getting clean for alcoholism and addiction, but just for their own mental health purposes, physical purposes, whatever it might be. And I started this podcast because I wanted to make it inclusive for people like that, because I don't think they understand the full benefits that come from sobriety when you have to start over and bulldoze from ground zero, and when you're getting sober because death is kind of your other option, or asylum, or whatever that might look like for you. And so I think you normies, you might get bored with all my self-pity talk, but I think it'd be good for you to stick around, and maybe you can make your January a little more comfortable. And I'm adoring everyone really trying this year. I'm seeing so many people go out on a limb to improve themselves, and I think it's just so sweet and so beautiful. Yeah. And it's snowing. I'm sorry, you heard me correct. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. It snowed when I took Ellie out. So I'm very excited about that. And I saw people shitting on for my French again, shitting on South Carolinians for being excited about the snow. Well, guess what? Debbie from New York, we don't get to see it much, and you moved here for a reason. So let us rest in our little inch of snow, okay? Well, it's not sticking, but anyways, we're having a little snow day, Ellie and I are. Ellie is obviously out of school. She's like 50 though, so she graduated college a while ago. She's unemployed, so she's just lounging around, and I'm not moving because it's a snow day. I don't want Yeti to get me. We're in South Carolina. There's Bigfoot everywhere. Who knows when Yeti can appear? So I am like on one. Y'all, I got this Bigsby coffee. It's the white mocha lightning. When I tell you lightning, like Moana lightning. Some serious lightning McQueen ka-chow. So yeah. Oh, and last week, I just did want to thank everybody. Last week, we talked about Allie, a friend of mine who passed away, unfortunately. And I've been grieving. It's been very difficult. I'm not going to touch too much on it because I break down very easily, obviously, when it comes to that. But I want to thank everyone for all the well wishes and the love and the prayers. I really felt every single person that was praying for me and thinking of me and feeling for me and for Al and for the family and for everything. Can't talk about it too much, but I really do thank anyone who assisted me during this time. You guys have meant the world to me. It's been very, very sweet. My family and my friends are just like incredible. I'm so blessed. But yeah, can't talk about that anymore. I'm going to start crying. So we're going to move forward. I guess I wanted to start with a couple of memories I had from the very beginning of sobriety. I did not go to rehab or treatment. I did it on my own, and I don't recommend that. It's very dangerous. Lucky for me, like I stated, I didn't have too many withdrawals. All of my withdrawals were mostly emotional. And I wanted to obviously hide the other withdrawals I was having due to my ego. And so almost all my withdrawals, I was very, very angry or very upset. And there wasn't a lot of room for anything in between. And, you know, one of my biggest questions getting sober was how? Like, how are these people doing it? How are you actually setting it down and stepping away from it? Because that in my brain just did not make sense. How could you give up your best friend like that? Y'all are quitters. Literally, I'd be like, I ain't no quitter. I'm a quitter now, aren't I? And I think that question, I looked all over. Like, I just wanted help, and I didn't know where to get it. And it's crazy because once you're in recovery, you can realize how much help is out there and where to look, and you're just blind to it in those moments, and you're so scared and you're so fearful. And when you're asking for help, it's not quite that you need a suicide hotline or a AA hotline. You know, things are hard. And I really feel for people who have asked me that question on TikTok, or who I see asking that question anywhere else. And I'm just going to say from the jump of this podcast, you're not going to get your perfect step-by-step answer because like, I don't even know if I should say this, but it's kind of like one of those things you can't explain, like mushrooms. Like, you know, when people ask you what drugs are like, but you can't tell them because you don't have words for that, you know? Oh my gosh. What am I digging myself in a hole right now? But it's kind of like that, y'all. Like with the beginning of sobriety, it's so unique. And it's what you're in a stage right now where it's absolutely whatever it takes. And that's so from person to person. You know, some people need to go sit in a bush for 6 months and stare at the sky. And it's really whatever works for you. So if you're coming here for I'm going to get you sober, I'm going to show you how, there is no way. It can only come from you. It really can. And I'm so blessed that I did this on my own because I think if I would have gone the rehab route or if it would have kept spiraling out of hand and I would have been forced to get sober, I would have been reluctant. I think it would have been a lot different and a lot more difficult. And sobriety is really on divine timing. I'll say it 15 million times and no one's going to hear me honestly, but it's 100% divine timing. When you put that thing down, it is not you putting it down. It is timing. It is the stars putting that thing down for you. And that's why I count every single day a blessing because it is a wonder I'm standing here without alcohol right now. It really is. But one of the first few memories, because as you guys know from my first video, I got sober a few different times, as most people do. My first one was off drugs. And that it's funny because both of these stories, y'all, happened at Bumpa's. If you know, you know. I'm just going to say at Bumpa's. Dan, I love you. Bumpa's, I love you. The Haymaker is so good. If you know where Bumpa's is, you should go there right now. But if Bumpa's was just our dive bar. It's our watering hole, kind of near our job. And both of these nights were me standing outside of Bumpa's just absolutely bawling my eyes out, and no one understood why I was so upset about quitting, and people were looking at me like I was crazy. That first memory, I was just standing out there outside of Bumpa's just bawling and thinking to myself, like, how am I supposed to do it? Like, I don't get it. And getting off drugs was a little bit different. And y'all heard me kind of talk about that. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse and keep talking about my story and what's happened in the past. I'm not that person anymore, and I would like to keep moving forward, but for educational purposes, we will go back at times. And my second memory, I was in my garage, my parents' garage with my sister, just crying my eyes out because I can't picture my life without alcohol, without my best friend, my sister, my parents. It's everything in one. That's what, if you are non-alcoholic, that is what it's like. So I know we sound crazy, but put some respect on it because that shit is so hard. It's so difficult, and I'm not even embarrassed by it anymore. I'm very proud, actually. So, and I say during those times too, it's so important to be alone or be with someone who really, really knows you and loves you. For me, I'm blessed. I have a beautiful younger sister who has just held my hand relentlessly through every battle I've ever gone through. And without her, I think my life, especially sobriety, would be a lot different of a story. And you'll hear me share, she is a big reason I got sober. And I am just so lucky I had her in that moment because it's so easy for people to look at you and just be like, that's your fault. You did that. And they can't understand why you're crying over drinking. You know, that's crazy to them. And I totally get it because it's crazy. I live in the brain. I can tell you it's crazy. And those are my memories looking back at those very first days. And I was right to be so scared. I was right because I was looking at my place of work, standing outside thinking, this is when everything is about to change. Like, how am I supposed to do this? Just feeling empty. And those, for me, because I wasn't in a facility, those few first months were a complete blur. It was so dark. And I don't mean to scare anybody by saying that because we have to level out if we're building a house, we have to level our foundation. We don't have a choice but to be knocked over. And, you know, that's how it's the phoenix rising from the ashes for a reason. That's when the most beautiful things are made. And it's so daunting. But when you can be that fearless, you'll be able to face anything in your life. I promise. And I was one of those people that I did not leave my house. Like, when I'm telling you I didn't leave my house, it was to a point that I could not go to like Kava, like somewhere that didn't serve alcohol. I could barely go to, like, mental gymnastics to get inside a Kava, which is just insane. And, you know, looking back, I'm not upset I numbed out. I think it was the smart thing for me to do. I put my head down and I ran through that shit. I ran as quick as I could away from my alcoholic monster, as quick as I could possibly run while getting on my own 2 feet. And like I said, obviously I'm not sitting here telling somebody to numb out, but that's what it's going to feel like. And to a lot of people, those feelings are very, very scary. And so I do kind of want to share some things that help with that, because unfortunately I can't change that for you. And it's like coming down from the worst high or drunk you've ever had. It is just the worst hangover for a little bit. And that's daunting. And I hate saying that upright in the first, 15 minutes of my podcast, but it's just the truth of the matter. And nobody is going to tell you this, but you can't get sober. You just got to be strong. There is no secret. You just have to be strong. That's simply what it is. And I hate saying it because I don't mean that in a harsh way. It's just that's the answer. It's up to you, you know? And I'm not going to keep beating the dead horse. I'm not going to keep saying that. And, you know, looking back, losing Allie, I lost a friend of mine to suicide. And, you know, that changes a person, obviously. And I think of the ways that, like, where am I missing my connection with my close friends? Why am I not able to look in their eyes and really help them, really be there for them, really be a good friend? And I realized while I was doing all this thinking that I couldn't even see it in myself. I couldn't. If you are addicted to something, if you would put your personal life on the line, I'm one of those people, for that substance, you are suicidal and you have suicidal thoughts. And I don't mean to say that so harshly, but it's a reality. And these are little red flags. These are red flags, you guys. And when those red flags add up, things that are devastating happen. And I just want to let you know, if you're getting sober and you think you're okay, you're probably not. And that's okay. But I was not aware of my mental state. Looking back, I should have been in grippy socks. I was so strong. I wish I could hug that girl that got sober. The amount of strength that it took for me to even go to work and get out of bed and do things was insane. And I did that shit. So that's why I'm so proud of it, because it's crazy. And I want you guys to really take care of yourself. I come on here saying that I didn't get help. I didn't go to facility. I didn't get a therapist. I didn't do those things. That is a bad thing. That is not a positive. If you're getting clean, it is unhealthy emotionally to do what I did. I was embarrassed. I didn't know what to do, you know, and I urge you, you know, obviously, again, go to rehab. But these are red flags. And it really does break my heart, because I think as alcoholics, we are so used to bottling things up. I've been doing that for 25 years. Bottling things up didn't start when I became an alcoholic. And for most of you, it didn't start when you became an alcoholic. That started, or when you were born, it didn't start when you were an alcoholic. That started when you were born. That started a very, very long time ago. And we're very used to bottling up and keep going. That's how we function. My brain is so used to that, to the point, y'all, I think I'm just self-sufficient. That's literally what I think. I think I don't need to talk about it. I got it. And I do to some extent. But when you grow up, you realize it's just simply not healthy. You can't bottle things up, and you actually don't have it. It's better to talk about it under any circumstance. And for me, that is like, oh my God, it's painful to talk about my feelings sometimes. Kind of surprising, right? Considering me right now literally talking about my feelings for 45 minutes. But it's gross. It's like cringy to me. And especially when I first got sober, they used the term, you're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is very true. And when you're in that early state, you're already feeling so gross, so just uncomfortable. And then you got to talk about it, and you're just like, okay, what the hell? It's like you're being tortured. It literally, it's too much. It's too much. So I'm a pro bottle upper, and I have been working on that very hard since I got sober. I'm getting better at it. I'm trying to share my life with others, because the thing about trust, guys, is it's not about what you do to make others trust you. It's about you showing them that you trust them. And that's what friendship is about. That's why we have to open up to people we love. We have to open up to our parents, to whoever it is, to show them that we trust them as well. In turn, that allows them to trust us, and we can move forward in a healthier way, in a healthier relationship. So it's painful, but that's what unites us with other people. And it's ultimately very important. That's what connects us, and it's not healthy to bottle those things. So, and I viewed my, this is unhealthy too, and I don't know if I should be spewing out all these unhealthy things, but it's just the truth. I viewed that first piece of getting sober, I viewed it as like the punishment for all of the shit I had done and all the things that had happened to me. And it felt like cosmic karma. It felt like I was meant to feel that way. And, that's not the reality. I think that the more I get into reality, the more I get into sobriety, the more I care about kind of a bit of fairness and the fact that I have to pay for the things I've done. And I'm really big on you don't just get things, you work for them and you deserve them. And that's like one of my philosophies now. I find it very important. And during that time, I felt I deserve this, like it's kind of like going to jail is how it felt. It was just like, I did this to myself. I deserve what I'm going through right now. And, a piece of that is true, because it kept me strong. That kept me going during that time. That kept me away from the drink. So I don't know. That's how I viewed it. And the beginning of sobriety, sorry, I'm a pin clicker. I need to get this pin away from me. In the beginning of sobriety, we are all like a big piece of glass. A big sheet of glass, and at any second you tamper with it, it is broken. It is in a million pieces, scattered. And that's what it's like in early sobriety. We're all big pieces of glass, and we're just trying to float to a point that we can kind of bloom and become something beautiful. But in the meantime, we are just barely skating through each moment, each second. And it's kind of like when you're getting your house renovated. So I never have experienced a renovation. I've barely gone to the Bahamas, so I don't really know. But it's kind of like when people are renovating their home and they got shit everywhere. Oh, turn this off. They got shit everywhere. Workers, whatever it might be, but they still got to live in the bedroom. They got to wait the 3 months because they know their house is going to look great in 3 months. It's kind of like that. It's kind of the perspective to go into it with, and it's just trying to get that glass to the end and just trying to skate through. And so the way you feel, you just gotta vibe with it, to be honest. It's just like, it's day in, day out. This shit is hard work. Being sober is hard work. It's not easy. It's not simple. And I'm not going to lie to you. I don't want to say it that way because I don't want to scare you, because I went into this like I wasn't going to put work into it really. I didn't know what to expect. But the more you get into it, you'll tell how much you want to work. Part of sobriety is really, really fun. Getting to work on yourself in this way is a perk. That's a huge perk. Of course, I went through some horrible things to get where I am today, but how cool is it at 25 years old? I get to have these insane emotional sobriety moments. I get to really construct myself as a capable young woman, and I get to build the mother I'll become, the worker I become, the wife I become. I get to build all of that now. And I would not have that opportunity if it wasn't for tequila. So, you know what? Thank you, Lunazul, for that. That's what I can thank you for. And there was a few quotes I heard at the beginning of my sobriety, and I think this will also go for the normies too. I plastered these in my house, and I thought of them. When I decided to get sober, it was one of those things that it's so cheesy, but it's like that winter arc, like the gym bros were like, shut up and grind. It's like that vibe. And it works, dude. Like, those guys are on it, and you just got to emulate a gym bro. Like, they're on 10, like a finance gym bro, emulate them. But the quotes that I really liked were, one of my favorite quotes ever, I liked this quote before sobriety, was that the greatest things rest on the other side of fear. I think Will Smith maybe said this. He was jumping out of an airplane, and that was like his biggest fear, I guess, was heights or something. And when he jumped, it was just an incredible feeling, an undescribable one. And it reminds me all the time. Part of the reason I'm sitting in front of this podcast, I've been so scared, I've had so much fear about it too. But the greatest things rest on the other side of fear. And that was the same with sobriety as well. Every day I would look at that quote and think, it's coming, it's coming. It rests on the other side. I have to keep pushing. That's one quote I really like. And then this quote I got from a YouTube ad from a gym. Don't know which gym, but they did a great job with this. It's, you don't know what you can do until you try, which I'm sure some athlete came up with that, not the gym. That's just where I heard it. But you really don't know until you try. And I find that so real with sobriety, because I'm like, I don't have that in me. Like, most alcoholics or addicts don't think they have that in them, because look at our everyday activities. I thought I did not. And I've shared this before too, but I knew I did not want to do this when I was 40 or 50. And I knew I have the brain elasticity right now. I have age on my side, no wrinkles yet. Girl, I'm gonna look boss when I'm 50 also. Let's talk about that. But I didn't want to do that again. I don't want to lose relationships with my children, relationships with loved ones, homes, whatever it might boil down to. And I know my alcoholic monster will take it that far. I know that. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but it's the hand I was dealt. And I'm an alcoholic, and I have to live my life a little bit differently than other people. And that's okay, because you should do whatever it takes for your happiness and for your peace, and to live your best life, to follow your dreams, to do everything you want to do. And I'm so glad that that's what became worth it to me. That is the most important thing to me. And I'm so blessed that happened. And I will say, this is for the normies too. I did it this way, and I recommend it. Do not group your habits. This is especially for alcoholics too. Do not try to change your entire life in one sweep. You are not going to keep up with going to the gym. You are not going to eat healthy all the time. I binge ate. I blew up like a balloon at the beginning of sobriety, and I don't care. It's what it took. So what? I ate however many calories a day. Better than drinking them, for being real. And I think that'll help a lot with normies, like going into dry January and just trying to better themselves. I don't think everything at once is really intense. And I don't think our brain is meant to literally completely change everything in one day. I just don't think it's realistic. So I was like, no gym. I'm not changing my diet. I'm not doing anything. I'm staying the exact same. I'm just not drinking. And I think that's a great tidbit of information, because I did just burp. Sorry. Oh my God. It's the white lightning. It's the white mocha lightning. I'm getting ka-chowed right now. But I think that's a great tidbit, because we often want to jump in and just change everything. And the thing about sobriety, if you're doing it because you have to, your life is going to change. The whole entire thing is going to change. And trust me, you want it to. You might not think you do now. You will want it to. You will definitely want it to change. And those things follow naturally, guys. When you put your brain on the right course, you start with a little pebble, you just get it rolling. That goes for normies too. Once you better yourself in certain ways and you look at yourself a certain way in the mirror, you'll want more. You'll keep coming back hungry. One part of your life at a time. That's one of my biggest pieces of advice. And for me, sobriety had to be absolutely everything. If you're coming out of rehab or a treatment center, you already know this. If you're getting clean on your own, like I said, I did not think I'd be spending a ton of time on this. And this older gentleman told me, well, did you drink every day? I said, of course I drink every day. Duh. And he said, well, then you're going to need to work on your sobriety every day, or go to a meeting, or do whatever every day. And I remember looking at him like, oh my God, great. But little did I know, I did 90 and 90, which for normies, that's 90 meetings in 90 days. And that was the damn truth. For me, sobriety had to become absolutely everything, or I was not going to get through it. And I think with normies, that's a good kind of tidbit too, is that it might not be hard, obviously, for you to not drink, but for someone that might be comfortable with relief around 5 p.m., or you have certain cues on timing throughout the day on when you might like some relief or whatever. Your brain often battles against you, and it's important to be light on your intake going into January. And like I said, starting little, developing over time. I think that's helpful for the normies too. Okay, this is I'm sorry, I'm a bit unorganized, but I have so many thoughts on early sobriety, and I'm trying to get it to come out the best way. So I apologize for any disorganization. But my biggest tidbit on this is to declare yourself in a state of change. What I mean by this is that every moment, every second, you are not just Maddee anymore. You are in a state of change. And what this does for your brain is honestly revolutionary. It takes time, and it makes you understand that pain is so temporary. What you're fighting for is so temporary, and the cost of work we put in for these great gifts is worth every ounce of it. And putting your brain in that place allows us to be so much more gentle with ourselves, so much more kind, and we grow in terms of our patience. And if you're anything like me, obviously you probably are as an alcoholic, you struggle with patience. Patience is not a virtue for you. I know I was that way. And unfortunately, that is going to be your new best friend, patience. You're going to have to get to know her well. And I think putting yourself in a state of change really allows patience. And patience with yourself and trust with yourself are the first places to start. You don't need to be looking around at your exterior. You don't need to be looking around what's going on. Do you trust yourself? Probably not at this point. Do you have patience with yourself? Probably not at this point. But give yourself a little grace. For the first time in your life, just have some patience. It's really hard to learn, but you'll get there. So yeah, consider yourself in a state of change. And with the state of change, with the state of change comes a new pace. I, much like many of you alcoholics, really lived a fast life. I fell in love with this fast life. I'm someone who falls in love with the feeling of something. I romanticize to a next level, and I fall in love with that picture, with that aesthetic. And I looked back at some of the stuff I used to journal and write about, and I found one kind of fascinating. It was me talking about how much the fast life was just killing me. And slowing down was super uncomfortable in the beginning, but I fell in love. Literally, this is so Miami of me and so Florida Maddee of me, but I fell in love with the feeling of sitting in the back of a car, 4 a.m., some type of psychoactive, more than likely, sunglasses on, drink in hand, and the lights going past you, but you don't see each light. They're streaming past you because they're going so fast. And that right there, that exact moment, is one that I absolutely fell head over heels for, that fast life. And I loved every second of it, but it ultimately almost killed me. And learning how to slow down, learning this new change of pace is going to be a little bit difficult to get into. But coddle yourself. Like I said, you're already taking away your baba, your literal tequila, human adult tequila. But you don't need to keep taking other stuff as well. Give yourself that comfortability. Give yourself a little bit of time. It's almost like grieving in some ways. You're losing a lot right now. And try to settle into that pace. I know it's difficult. It was for me, but every day gets a little slower. And you'll find with sobriety too, for me, in the beginning, those days were 48 hours long. I swear. Oh my God, I swear. It was like time was not the same it used to be. Days used to go like this when I was in active addiction alcoholism so quickly. So you got to slow down. You're going to have to buckle in, girl, because those days, slow days. And I read a book, It's basically a cartoon book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you guys have heard of that before, I'm sure you have. Anyone with a working cell phone has. And I really liked Atomic Habits for a lot of reasons. But one of the things it kind of talks about is the monotony. Why am I so repulsive and disgusting today? But it talks about like pushing past that monotony. So all of the reps, like with professional athletes, all those reps, all those things that don't feel like they're working, just the same thing day in and day out. Success comes from those people who can really push past that. Where monotony, they understand, is part of it. That's part of the success. That's part of it. And monotony is hard for people that don't want to slow down. That's difficult. It's people that constantly need their brain activated in some zone. It becomes difficult. So I definitely highly recommend Atomic Habits. It also talked to me. I was one of those people I could not get out of bed. It was really, really hard for me in the beginning. And that book kind of talked about we sleep in our bedroom. We rest on the couch. We eat at the dining room. And I took that as literal, and I wasn't allowed to eat my bed. If I ate, it had to be here on the couch. And I would move after a little bit of time. Slowly, I would move from being in my bed to the couch. Then suddenly I'd eat at the table. And I think, patience, slow grind. And that book was great. So I highly recommend it, especially because us alcoholic and addicts, we're not educated. Let's be real here. Let's be real. We're not about to sit down. The only book we're going to read is the big book. We're not adding some extra literature in. But that's a super, super easy read. Big words, as in like big on the page, not too big of words. So like really easy read. Love that book. This is another tidbit I think will be great for the normies as well. Is with sobriety, when you're getting sober, and I hesitate to say authentically, but you know what I mean. If you're getting sober because you don't have a choice, we have a luxury of, we have to live in the moment. We have no choice but to learn how to do that, because it's really, really painful for us to do that. It hurts really bad for us to live in those moments. If you have an alcoholic brain, you understand. And we have to learn how to do that. Every single day, I would tell myself, my feet are here. I'd look down. My feet are here. My feet are here. And you'll hear that a lot in the program if you're in it. And you'll hear that a lot in sobriety. But same with any of the normies out there. Use this month to really be in the moment. Your feet are here in this moment right now, not ahead to the next. As an alcoholic, I lived in the next moment for several years, and that's really damaging, really debilitating. And there's such a beauty in learning how to live in the moment. And if you're getting sober, you will get there quicker than you think, actually. It sounds unrealistic, but you will get there, and living in the moment is just the most beautiful thing. I never thought I'd be able to. I still obviously struggle with it, as most of us do, but such a beautiful thing. It makes life so beautiful. It makes those simple things so beautiful. So with that comes also mindfulness, which is another huge tip, is meditation. Meditation is one of my biggest tips. I think there's some stuff, some controversy with meditation. I think people think that maybe you're born and you can or you can't. That is not the case. Everyone can meditate. It takes practice. But what meditation does is it allows your brain to focus, bring you back to focus, bring you back to the moment. And that is such a great tool to have. When I first got sober, if you're not sure on meditation, if you can't do it, I've meditated for several years, but what I would do is look up YouTube 10-minute guided meditations. And if you can't get in the moment, it's okay. Don't get so frustrated with yourself. Just keep trying. And what I did in the beginning, I found helpful, is every single day of the week, I would just go back through my chakras. So each day would be based on a certain chakra, and I'd eat foods that I feel went with it. I'd do activities I feel went around it. I tried to act accordingly, do selfless acts based on those chakras. I found that really helpful to me. I have to have meditation or I go absolutely bucko. I have to have a connection to something, to whatever that divine looks like for you. I hope you keep your connection as well. So meditation is one of my, do not skip me when I tell you, at least try meditation. And then I don't know if I was living under a rock. You're going to hear this everywhere. People are going to say it all the time, but writing things down. Write down every single feeling you have, whether you're a normie or not. Write down every feeling you have. It saved me. Honestly, it saved my heart and my mind from so much turmoil. It really feels like you're getting it off your chest, just like you're talking to somebody. And that helps with us who bottle it up, like I spoke about. And I think both of those are really big perks in getting clean, quote unquote, the authentic way versus dry January. And for the normies, both of those are great tidbits to take away because, again, for us, this is life or death. It's black and white. We either stay sober or we die, essentially. And some of that, what is the word I'm looking for? Intensity. Some of that intensity is something that you can bring to your January as well. You don't have to be getting clean because you're going to die. And you can still bring that fire and that intensity to it. And I urge you to. And your brain wants relief, honestly. It's so messed up. Your brain wants relief. It wants you to drink. And skating around that, I wish I could help you again, but you got to be strong, queen, and you will be. Take my tips. You will be. One of my favorite things, too, about the program in particular, but about sobriety, is that if you have a feeling that you want to drink that day and you have urges that day that are really intense and you think you might use, you can't that day. You need to contact somebody and then you roll into the next day and we see how you feel. We'll maybe go from there. But you cannot drink the day you think that. And the beautiful thing about that is by tomorrow you realize you didn't want to, for the most part, typically. And I think that's so beautiful. And I wanted to give that tidbit also to people who are doing it the normie way, is that if you have that urge to drink or you want to go out with your friends that night and you think you might, just think, no, if I want to, I have to wait till tomorrow. And I think there's so much beauty in that. It just gives you a warm hug feeling because you just know that when tomorrow comes, you won't feel that way. And I went through so many days of that where I just thought I might drink. And that was part of it. I put my head down and I felt like if I can make it to 30 days, when is it going to be socially acceptable for me to drink again? I've talked about this before too, but it's make it to 30 days. Okay. Then you make it to 90 or 60. Okay. All right. Then 90. And then before you know it, you're walking on your own and you love this sobriety thing and you wouldn't change it for the world. And right now you're building your foundation and I recommend you building it as strongly as you possibly can. That's looking through your personal defects. That's looking to how you've harmed others. That's another part of the program or another part of sobriety that normies might not take away, but we change ourselves fundamentally. I knew when I got sober, my whole perspective needed to change and I wanted to view life differently. When I went into sobriety, I didn't realize how bad of a drunk I was. And I just wanted, again, to see life in these rose-colored glasses that I live in. That's all I wanted. I just wanted peace and I wanted to be happy. And I knew that life was beautiful. And I did not like that had faded away in me because that's not natural. Life has always been so beautiful and fun and free to me. And when those feelings started to go away and I was resenting life, I knew things were getting out of hand because that's not who I am inherently, naturally. And, it's just really about a full change of perspective. And I think that's something you normies can take away to resetting your brain, how you look at life, how you look at others, going back to the really deep parts of you that you don't want to look at. That's what sobriety is about. Doing every single thing that you absolutely hate that makes you so uncomfortable and doing it with a smile on your face. And that's difficult. I know I sound like a crazy person because it's like, why would you even want to better yourself that much? You're 25, get a grip. But like I said earlier, I want to do this now. And you never learn enough. You physically cannot learn everything on this earth. And we have so many years to do it, which is so awesome. And I knew that I had never accomplished anything in my life. And I hate to say this, but most of you alcoholics and addicts know that you haven't either. And it's unfortunate, but we could be so much more. And I even heard someone saying that alcoholics are very more often than not entrepreneurs. And I'm like, are you saying that because of drug dealing or like what? And this guy's like, no, like just the way our brains are structured. And that's why there's nothing less powerful than like a sober person who got sober from that. Like a sober alcoholic is like, that's an intense person right there. And I know I'm a very intense person, so I really got where that guy was coming from. But I knew I'd never accomplished anything in my life, and I knew I could be so much more. And like, if you picture it as a game almost, I guess, like, I'm starting at the bottom of my career, bottom of my life, and I'm looking up to all this stuff I'm going to build the rest of my life. And I conquer the biggest monster on level 1. That's crazy. That means going through the rest of my life, I can conquer anything. That's what it gives me. That's exactly what it's like. That was a good analogy. It's like you killed your beast on level 1. No lives are lost. You crushed that man. And that's the kind of energy I went into this with. And that's the kind of energy I will be keeping as well. That's my vibes in the chat, you guys. That's the vibes I bring to the function. Monster Slayer. That's my vibes. And, so I think that's another good perspective and way to look at it, because you're not going to get rid of the monster babes. I'm so sorry, but you're not. That was my what is it called? Sorry. My mental health alarm to tell me to make sure I'm having a positive day. I am. Thank you, alarm. That also went off in Allie's funeral, which is so embarrassing, but it was like, I could feel Allie laughing at me. Like, of course your alarm right now blaring in my funeral would be your mental health alarm. Oh, but I know what I was saying. So you're not going to get rid of that alcoholic monster. You're not going to be able to outsmart it. You're not going to be able to drink like a lady. You're not going to be able to drink lightly. It's just not going to happen. Take it from me personally. And getting that diagnosis and kind of understanding where you stand and the cards that you're dealt and what the rest of your life has to look like because of that, that's how you need to look at it. And there's so much time for pity. I do want you to have a pity party. I want you to be like, fuck, woe is me. I think that's important. And that kept me numb for a minute. That got me through it. And I think also my journey is very unique because I didn't go to rehab and I didn't want to share what was going on in my life. And I think I'm a fighter for that. I think in a lot of ways it makes me unique, and it makes me really strong. It put a lot of strength behind me. And I think when Allie passed, had I not been sober and been so strong mentally, it would have completely broken me. And I know she's smiling at me right now because I shared that we were going to do a podcast together. So I know she's here. I was very hopeful that maybe I could help people with my life. I'd always kind of wanted to help people, but I was like, maybe this gives me purpose. Maybe what if me getting sober ends up giving me more than I think it will, and I'm sitting in front of this camera and damn, has it given me purpose. I don't make money from my purpose, but I'm able to help others. And I think that's just an opportunity people don't get, and why I'm sitting here, because I think that everyone should have this opportunity, normie or not. And you will hit a point that you'll start doing your hobbies. You'll learn the little things about yourself again. You'll learn your favorite colors, your favorite foods. You'll laugh again. You'll laugh again at some point. Your first sober laugh will be so nice because you're just like, wow, I'm like laughing. Things are funny without alcohol. And I had a party the other night for my work, and obviously I'm very used to being around alcohol. I'm used to not drinking at this point, but at my core, I'm a socialite, okay? Let's just paint it what it is. On my insides, I'm Paris Hilton. It's just who I am. I don't have blood. It's sparkle that oozes from it. And I felt that way that night just a few days ago, and it was just beautiful. I felt so happy, so free to be there, so in love with my friends, just having a great time. And I did that sober. And it was a really great feeling leaving because I was really panicked before and I was having a hard day. Again, my sister really helped with that and stepped into play. And I want you guys to know that it's very isolating to get sober. And for me, at least, I didn't cut people out. So I don't know. I feel like there's a I'm not sure what word I'm looking for, but I think a lot of people think that maybe in sobriety you have to cut everybody off, and I'm thinking maybe normies might do that. And it's as simple as assessing just assessing where you're at in your friendships and your relationships. But as you grow, those things will grow with you. I didn't cut people off. I knew that people would slowly kind of fall off or get closer with me. And I wanted those things to kind of occur naturally. And I think the same goes with someone getting sober the authentic way. Obviously, people you're using with, people that sell to you, whatever it might be, those people need to be cut out. That happens immediately. When you're taken out of that pool you're in, it falls off. Those people fall right off like water out of the pool. They're just dripping off. They don't give a shit about you in the first place. They could care less you're gone. So you don't have to over evaluate everything in your life. Like I said, it all starts so small, and all you need really is just a willingness. And there's so many people on the other side waiting for you with open arms who are ready to help you. And you'll see that your eyes will be open to that slowly over time. I don't talk about the program because we just don't. But any questions on that or any kind of more personal questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I hope you guys were able to kind of learn something from this. I'm really proud of you for even thinking about it. I'm proud of the people who are just doing sober dry January, or changing anything about themselves. And if you are suffering and sick right now, please reach out to me. I'm very sorry to tell you that it is sheer strength, and I'm sorry to tell you that that's what it boils down to, but you got it. And, keep in mind you're in a state of change. Okay? I love you guys. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Best of luck. Happy